empirical proof that consciousness survives death. For centuries, the idea of life between lives was treated as a spiritual myth, something reserved for esoteric beliefs. But in recent years, scientists, psychiatrists, and physicists have begun investigating the phenomenon with unprecedented seriousness. Neuroscience labs, leading universities, and even skeptical doctors are being forced to confront evidence that doesn't fit any conventional explanation. There are patterns, shared memories, and experiences that simply cannot be ignored. One of the most impactful studies was conducted by independent research groups affiliated with the University of Virginia, which analyzed more than 2,500 cases of people remembering previous lives, many of them verified with historical data. Children described names, places, and events from other times with eerie accuracy. And when these same individuals undergo deep regression, they speak of an intermediate state, an in-between worlds where the soul revisits its past life and prepares for the next. But what few know is that scientists are connecting these accounts to quantum physics. They suggest that consciousness may be a universal field of information, something that neither originates nor dies with the body, merely reconnects to different experiences, like waves that change frequency. This hypothesis changes everything, not only about what happens after death, but about what it truly means to be alive. After all, if consciousness is eternal, death may be just a station change on the train of existence. Modern physics is beginning to touch on something that, for centuries, was the exclusive province of spirituality: consciousness as the basis of reality. While traditional biology attempts to locate the mind within the brain, quantum physicists are reaching an unexpected conclusion. Perhaps the brain is merely the receiver, not the source, of consciousness. Like a radio capturing an invisible frequency, the human body would be the instrument, and consciousness, the signal. Theories like that of Nobel Prize-winning physicist Roger Penrose suggest that the mind arises from quantum processes within neurons, phenomena that are not limited by space and time. This would explain why near-death experiences, regressions, and past life memories seem to transcend the physical body. When biology shuts down, consciousness merely shifts states, like light that continues to exist even after a bulb breaks. But there's something even more disturbing. If consciousness is quantum, then it can exist on multiple planes simultaneously. This means that every thought, emotion, or decision may be shaping parallel realities, versions of ourselves that coexist in subtle dimensions. What we call the soul may actually be a quantum network of eternal information, interconnecting all existences. And if this is true, what happens after death is merely a change of tune. Science, unwittingly, may be about to prove what mystics have always known: the soul is indestructible. Have you ever noticed how anything that challenges the materialist view of life is immediately ridiculed or silenced? From the earliest studies on near-death experiences to research on quantum consciousness, there's a pattern. When something threatens the traditional model of science, and especially the institutions of power, the topic simply disappears from the headlines. Reports are shelved, research funding cut, and scientists discredited. Coincidence? Or is something much larger being protected? The truth is that acknowledging the existence of life between lives would challenge entire pillars of modern society. Imagine if people lost their fear of death and understood that the soul is eternal. Control through fear would simply cease to work. Religions would lose their spiritual monopolies. Governments would have less power over collective morality. And even the economy, based on consumption and attachment, would be profoundly shaken. In a world where everyone remembers who they truly are, the system as we know it would cease to make sense. Therefore, this knowledge remains in the shadows, veiled by a mixture of scientific skepticism and cultural manipulation. But the signs are everywhere. Independent universities resuming forbidden studies, doctors reporting what they previously dared not say, and a new generation of thinkers challenging the old paradigm. The truth cannot be erased forever. The veil is beginning to tear, and what comes next could change the way we understand life, death, and reality itself. Throughout human history, the fear of death has been the great specter of consciousness. It's what makes us rush, accumulate, compete, and believe that life ends with the final beat. But what if death isn't an end, but rather a change of state? When someone experiences regression between lives, this fear simply dissolves. Because the person feels, and not just understands, that the soul continues. There is no punishment, no final judgment, only constant learning and evolution. This realization changes everything. People who experience near-death experiences or deep regression report a radical transformation in their way of life. They stop postponing dreams, harboring resentments, and living on autopilot. They begin to see life as a sacred school, where every pain has a purpose and every encounter is a reunion of souls. Existence ceases to be a race against time and becomes a dance between eternities. Understanding life between lives is like remembering who you truly are, an eternal consciousness clothed in temporary matter. And when this remembrance awakens, the fear of death transforms into curiosity about eternity. Anxiety fades, purpose blossoms, and the simple act of being alive takes on a new luster, because you understand that every experience, even the most painful, is part of a journey that never ends. It was supposed to be the end. The monitors showed a flat line, the heart had stopped, and the medical team was already declaring death. But while this was happening, Maria, a 38-year-old nurse, watched everything from above. She saw her own body on the stretcher, saw her colleagues trying to revive her, and heard every word they said. Minutes later, when she returned, she described details that would only have been possible if she had been there conscious. The doctors remained silent. She said in tears, "I didn't die. I just woke up." Cases like Maria's are being documented in hospitals around the world. Patients describe tunnels of light, encounters with loved ones, life reviews, and an indescribable feeling of unconditional love. The curious thing is that, regardless of culture or religion, the reports follow the same pattern, as if everyone accessed the same field of consciousness, beyond time and the body. And when they return, they all affirm the same thing: death does not exist. But the real impact of these experiences isn't in what people see, but in what they become afterward. Many change their lives completely. They begin to value the present, compassion, and love. Fear disappears and gives way to a profound serenity. Scientists may try to explain it with physiological theories, but something in these stories touches a chord that logic can't grasp. It's as if each testimony is a reminder from the other side, saying, "You are eternal. You just forgot for a while." What if all our experiences, thoughts, and emotions were connected by an invisible field, a network that unites every living being in the universe? This is the central idea behind fields of consciousness, a concept being explored by scientists, physicists, and spiritual scholars. According to this view, consciousness is not an individual thing, but a shared ocean, and each of us is merely a temporary ripple rising on its surface. Biologist Rupert Sheldrake, with his theory of morphic fields, proposed that there is a universal memory that shapes the behavior and learning of all life forms. This would explain phenomena such as simultaneous intuitions, synchronicities, and even memories of past lives, echoes of this collective field, where all information remains recorded. It is as if the soul dives into the sea of consciousness to seek the experiences it needs to live in each incarnation. When someone experiences regression, near death, or a deep state of meditation, what happens, according to this hypothesis, is a momentary expansion of perception. The person tunes in to the field, perceives the interconnectedness of everything, and understands that they have never been alone. We are fragments of a single source, exploring different stories, so that the whole can know itself. This understanding radically changes the way we view life, no longer as separate individuals, but as sparks of a universal consciousness, eternally interconnected. For a long time, science and spirituality have moved in opposite directions, one seeking material proof, the other invisible truths. But something extraordinary is happening. The boundaries are beginning to blur. Leading physicists, neuroscientists, and psychiatrists are uniting around a revolutionary idea that consciousness is not a byproduct of a brain, but the foundation of reality itself. And this simple reversal changes everything we know about life, death, and existence. Recent research in the fields of quantum neuroscience and particle physics points to a universe in which information and consciousness are indestructible. Scientists like Amit Goswami and Dean Radin suggest that the human soul may be a form of quantum energy capable of manifesting itself in multiple bodies and dimensions. This would explain phenomena previously dismissed as coincidence: spontaneous memories of past lives, telepathy, synchronicities, intuitions, and even reports of regressions that describe the between lives with astonishing accuracy. If these hypotheses are confirmed, we will be facing an unprecedented scientific revolution. Death will no longer be taboo and will become merely a phase shift in the cycle of consciousness. Universities will have to rewrite entire textbooks, religions will need to engage with physics, and every human being will be invited to look at themselves with new eyes. Because, for the first time in history, science and spirituality will not be enemies. They will be two different languages describing the same truth. The soul is real, and life is eternal. We are experiencing the beginning of a new revolution, not industrial, nor technological, but consciousness. For the first time, science and spirituality are beginning to speak the same language. Laboratories are investigating what monks have intuited for millennia: that consciousness is the fundamental fabric of the universe. This convergence is opening doors to a new vision of life, one in which the invisible is no longer a mystery, but an essential part of reality. Quantum physics, neuroscience, and transpersonal psychology are redrawing the boundaries of what's possible. The notion of life after death is shifting from belief to scientific hypothesis. And, little by little, human beings are beginning to understand that it's not a body that possesses a soul, but a soul that temporarily inhabits a body. This simple inversion changes everything: our relationship with time, with fear, with others, and with the planet. The future that is being announced is that of an awakened humanity, people aware that every gesture, thought, and emotion reverberates in the collective field of existence. When this realization becomes commonplace, there will be no more wars over ignorance or divisions over beliefs. There will be only the recognition that we are different expressions of the same eternal consciousness. And perhaps, on that day, science's greatest advance will be to acknowledge what the human heart has always known: life never ends. It merely changes form. In the end, perhaps the biggest secret isn't what happens after death, but in remembering who we really are while we are still alive. We are travelers between worlds, eternal consciousnesses experiencing time for a few moments. And each life is just a page of this infinite story. Science is just beginning to decipher what the ancients already knew: that the soul is neither born nor dies, it just changes form. And understanding this changes everything, because fear turns into freedom, pain into learning, and life into an invitation to awaken. So, before I close this video, I want to leave you with a question. What if what you call death is just the moment you remember who you really are? Think about it. If this video made you see life in a different way, leave your like, share with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe, because in the next videos, we'll go deeper on this journey between science, the soul, and the mystery of the universe. After all, dying is just changing frequency.